One drink, a single glass of wine with dinner. Nothing excessive, nothing reckless. You fall asleep faster. You sleep what feels like 8 full hours. And you wake up worse than if you had slept 6. In 2018, a study of 4,098 people measured exactly what that one drink does to your body overnight. The restorative value of sleep dropped by 9.3%. Not at 3 drinks, not at 5, at 1. The problem is not that alcohol ruins your sleep. The problem is that it perfectly imitates success. To understand what alcohol does to a night of sleep, you need to know what a normal night looks like without it. Sleep is not one state. It is a sequence of distinct stages, 3 progressively deeper phases of non-REM and 1 phase of REM, cycling through all 4 with brief wakefulness between rounds. A healthy adult cycles through all 5, roughly every 90 minutes, 4 to 5 times per night. The deep slow wave phases dominate the first half. REM, the stage tied to memory consolidation and emotional processing, grows longer in the second half. This architecture was first mapped by Nathaniel Cly-Taman and Eugene Osurinsky at the University of Chicago in 1953, using the first polysomnographs, machines that record brain waves, eye movement, and muscle tone simultaneously. The structure is not decoration. Every phase has a function. Disrupt the sequence, and the functions fail silently. Here is what alcohol does to that sequence, step by step. First, ethanol crosses the blood-brain barrier and potentiates GABA-A receptors, the same inhibitory system targeted by anesthetics and benzodiazepines. Cortical firing slows. The feeling: heavy eyelids, rapid drowsiness. Second, alcohol blocks the reuptake of adenosine in the basal forebrain. Adenosine is the molecule that builds up during wakefulness and creates sleep pressure. The same molecule caffeine blocks. Alcohol floods this system artificially, forcing the brain's wake-promoting neurons to shut down. Third, and this is the part that fools everyone, the first 3 to 4 hours of sleep look normal. Slow wave activity increases. On a sleep tracker, it registers as deep, consolidated rest. But in 2015, EEG spectral analysis by Coleraine and colleagues revealed something hidden inside that deep sleep: simultaneous alpha wave intrusion at frontal brain sites. The brain is producing slow waves and distress signals at the same time. Here's the assumption most people carry without noticing it: falling asleep fast means sleeping well. It does not. What alcohol induces is sedation, not sleep. Matthew Walker, director of the Center for Human Sleep Science at UC Berkeley, draws the distinction precisely. Alcohol sedates you out of wakefulness. It does not guide the brain into the organized oscillations of natural non-REM. The EEG pattern under alcohol resembles mild anesthesia more closely than it resembles stage 3 sleep. And then the second act begins. As the liver metabolizes ethanol at roughly 0.015 grams per deciliter per hour, the sedative effect wears off. The nervous system, suppressed for the first half of the night, overshoots. Sympathetic activation surges. Heart rate climbs. Heart rate variability, the beat-to-beat fluctuation that tracks parasympathetic recovery, collapses. Cortisol rises hours earlier than it should. REM sleep, suppressed in the first half, by around 7% of total sleep time at moderate doses, more at higher doses, tries to rebound, but this rebound happens inside a fragmented, sympathetically activated context, the neurochemical equivalent of trying to dream during a fire alarm. The person sleeps through most of this. They won't remember the repeated micro-arousals, brief awakenings lasting seconds, too short to encode into memory. They will remember feeling exhausted in the morning and not knowing why. Not knowing why. That's exactly what this episode's sponsor helps with. A private community I run with over 100,000 courses across health, cognition, and psychology. If the mechanisms behind your sleep matter to you, the neuroscience tracks inside go deeper than any single episode can. Link is in the description below. All right, back to the numbers. The numbers come from 3 independent lines of evidence. Abraham and colleagues published a systematic review in 2013, covering every known controlled study of alcohol and sleep in healthy volunteers. The conclusion held across every dose: reduced onset latency in the first half, increased disruption in the second half. No exceptions. Pietila and colleagues at Tampere University measured 4,098 Finnish employees in their own homes, not in a lab, using continuous heart rate monitoring. One drink reduced the restorative quality of sleep by 9.3%. 2 drinks, 24%. 3 or more, 39.2%. The effect was the same in men and women, in athletes and sedentary workers. Thakkar and colleagues at the University of Missouri identified the mechanism in 2015. Alcohol hijacks adenosine signaling, the brain's own sleep pressure system, forcing sedation through a pathway that was never designed to be activated from outside. 3 labs, 3 methods, the same conclusion. This is not really about alcohol. It is about what sleep actually is. Sleep is not the absence of wakefulness. It is a precisely sequenced series of neurochemical states, each with its own purpose, its own timing, its own vulnerability. Anything that disrupts the sequence does not just reduce rest. It disables specific functions: memory consolidation, emotional regulation, metabolic recovery, immune cycling, without the sleeper ever knowing. Alcohol exposes this because it is the most common disruptor that perfectly hides its own damage. The person feels sedated. The architecture collapses. And because the microarousals never reach conscious memory, the cause remains invisible, sometimes for years, sometimes for a lifetime. 20% of American adults use alcohol to fall asleep. Among those with chronic insomnia, the number is closer to 30%. Roars and Roth documented in 2001 that tolerance to alcohol's sedative effect develops within 3 nights. The sleep-disrupting effects do not develop tolerance. They persist. This creates a ratchet. Faster tolerance, same damage, escalating doses, worsening sleep. And because the damage is invisible, because no one can feel their own REM being suppressed, the loop can run for months before anything seems wrong. The question is not whether alcohol hurts your sleep. The research settled that decades ago. The question is how many people are sleeping 8 hours tonight and waking up tomorrow convinced they slept well. Because the one thing alcohol is genuinely good at is making bad sleep feel like no sleep at all. 1 drink, a single glass of wine with dinner, 9.3% of your night, gone where you cannot see it, cannot feel it, cannot remember it. The mechanism does not need your awareness to work. It never did. Every week, another piece of the machinery that runs your night. Subscribe. The next episode might explain what you thought you already knew about your own brain.